I'm Richard Jones. I work for the Centre for English Local History at the University of Leicester, and I'm a lecturer in landscape history. For the last 4 years I've been working in the Centre for English Local History, and I've realised that I have never really thought through that little label local. And when I started to investigate the idea, I suddenly realised that it was incredibly complicated. For some people, local is 2 miles, for others 5, 10, 15, up to 100 miles. So what I wanted to do was to conceive a practical project that we could explore this idea. And so for the month of September, we are eating only produce sourced within a 2-mile radius of the house. I think it is interesting to reflect on how the notion of local may have changed over time. We're certainly very clear that we're unable in this project to reproduce the local experience or how it may have been experienced in the past, but we can start to get some insights about what mattered to people in the past, about how time-consuming sourcing and processing food was, how it becomes a daily obsession, something that has to be prioritised over everything else. Food is a really useful medium through which to explore these ideas, because we all actively use food to say something about ourselves, and that has been a human constant. So in the past, food was also saying things about particular people. So it gives us that way into people's lives in the past, the way they thought, the way they tried to present themselves, and how their relationships that they had between their animals, their crops, their soils, and so on. What seems to be emerging from this research is that it isn't a defined area that really matters. It is the personal connections that you make with other people. In other words, it's about community. And I think that potentially helps us to think about how we should study local history in other contexts. We should be thinking about defining it in terms of people rather than space. One of the ideas that I'm thinking about at the moment is this notion of terroir, used in France, of course, to define local foods. But I think that it is a useful concept to think about rural societies more generally. Terroir is all about the landscape, microclimates, soils, which give particular flavours to food, of course, but it's also about how agriculturalists practice, about heritage, and all those ideas I think you can see, if you look closely enough, at play in medieval rural communities in England.